Week 5 is almost here and the bye weeks are here, and spending your waiver budget smartly is so much more important at this time of year. I've got some guys who are really low rostered, as well as some guys that aren't quite as low rostered but are worth checking in on anyway. We're going to whip through all of them in the next 10 minutes. Let's go. Roschon Johnson rostered at 27% over on Yahoo, and it looks like he completely erased Khalil Herbert based on yesterday. All last week, they were talking about how they wanted Roschon Johnson to be more involved. We saw after Travis Homer went on IR, Roschon Johnson went from being inactive on game days to suddenly he had a role again. Per Nathan Yankee of PFF, Swift remained the clear running back on early downs. Swift took all the early down snaps in the first quarter. The two received a near even split in the second and third quarters, 12 snaps for Swift and 10 for Roschon Johnson. And then in the fourth quarter, it was all Swift. So this job isn't wrestled away from DeAndre Swift quite yet. We thought that might be the case and that DeAndre Swift was opening up a possibility for Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson to take the job. Not yet, but look, DeAndre Swift has been awful this year. The Rams are an awful defense. There are going to be weeks in the coming up where DeAndre Swift starts to look bad again. And if Roschon Johnson's out there, Roschon Johnson might have the chance to steal the RB1 duties for this job. Tyler Allgeier, 23% rostered. This is easily one of the best backup running backs in the entire league right now. Allgeier, he was consistently involved yesterday, and we kind of knew this was coming. Raheem Morris said that they'd ride the hot hand. They wanted to get Tyler Allgeier more involved. And straight from the second drive, Tyler Allgeier played 5 snaps on that one. Normally, he's not been involved till much later on in the games, but we saw him out there, and we saw him running well. He's got a higher first down rate, more yards per carry, more yards after contact per carry, a higher avoided tackle rate, and more carries of 10 or more yards than Bijan Robinson. Despite the fact that he's had fewer attempts, he is crushing Bijan in so many of those metrics. And right now, it looks like Tyler Allgeier is earning himself a bigger role. And if anything was to happen to Bijan Robinson, Tyler Allgeier at worst would be a top 18 running back every week. If this is your first time finding us here in Fantasy Sanctuary, smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave us a comment, and leave us your fantasy questions. We answer every question here. Let us know what's causing you a headache this week, and we'll help you through it. Dontayvion Wicks, 14% rostered, is absolutely going to be one of the most popular ads this week. And I think you can be aggressive going out and get him. The Christian Watson high ankle sprain, it just makes it so much easier to decipher what's going on in Green Bay. Before this week, it was Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed out there playing an awful lot of snaps. But Dontayvion Wicks and Christian Watson were split in time. Now we've got a high ankle sprain for Christian Watson, who over his 3 years in the NFL consistently cannot stay on the field. Dontayvion Wicks, though, this is a guy with so much potential. We saw it yesterday. He went out there, led the team in targets as Green Bay were really relying on the passing game. 5 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, led the team in targets with 13 for the day. There's a chance that Bo Melton's going to drop in and out of the team and rotate in and out. But I think Dontayvion Wicks has huge upside. And with the bye weeks, you're going to need that cover. I'd be willing to go out and spend a decent bit of fab on Dontayvion Wicks. Tank Bigsby, 11% rostered, averaging a massive 8.2 yards per carry. He's had 3 goal line snaps this in week 4, and this was always the hope for him, but the team talked about going back to before they drafted him in 2023, that they wanted a running back to come in and take some of the work away from Travis Etienne, because they didn't think that Travis Etienne was able to be as explosive over the second halves of seasons when he was doing all the dirty work in between the tackles around the goal line. They don't view Etienne as that type of back. Yesterday, Tank Bigsby goes in, gets those 3 goal line snaps, and he looked good. He had that 58-yard run, which was really impressive. Meanwhile, Travis Etienne only got to 50 yards on 11 carries. And Bigsby, it's impossible to ignore how much he's improved from last year when he had a habit of fumbling or dropping passes into the hands of defenders who then would take it back for a pick 6. And this year, he's been reliable. He's been good. Again, if anything happened to Etienne, you're looking at, top 36, top 30 running back every single week with much higher ceiling than that. Josh Downs, 20% rostered, coming off 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown yesterday, tied with Michael Pittman for 9 targets. There was nobody else on the team over 3. Now, of course, yesterday's game was a bit of a product of the elite Joe Flacco, but Josh Downs is the slot receiver on the Colts. He settled back into that role completely, pushed A.D. Mitchell back to the bench. Alec Pierce has seen a little bit of a steady role, But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alec Pierce start to come off the field a bit more as Josh Downs ramps up even more. Josh Downs last year was excellent until he got banged up in week 12 against the Patriots when we were playing in Germany. And then he never really recovered from that. This year, coming off a high ankle sprain suffered in training camp, the Colts seem to have really just brought him along slowly. But now he looks good, and I would imagine that he's going to see some very high snap counts over the coming weeks and could just be a PPR scam. Chase Brown, 61% rostered. Look, I know what some of you are going to say. Chase Brown, he's rostered in all my leagues. Why would I need to check for Chase Brown? But go and check. Chase Brown before this week wasn't giving you a great amount of fantasy points. There's 39% of Yahoo leagues where Chase Brown is not rostered. Coming off 2 touchdowns, admittedly against a very weak Carolina run defense, so it's not necessarily going to be like this all the time. But yesterday was the first time that we saw an equal amount of carries between Chase Brown and Zach Moss, both with 15 carries each. We saw Chase Brown had 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions, and 12 yards. It really feels like Chase Brown is going to have to prove himself as a pass blocker to be able to open up a really big role. He's only played 2 pass block snaps all season. But the biggest change for Chase Brown, though, he had goal line and short yardage work for the most amount of those opportunities that we've seen this season. It seems like the Bengals are starting to trust him slightly more. But we know he's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. He can change a game like that, and he could be an absolute difference maker down the stretch. Xavier Legette, 14% rostered, now firmly playing in 2 wide receiver sets. Initially, he was only playing in 3 wide receiver sets, and the 2 wide receiver sets with Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. Now that Adam Thielen's on injured reserve, it's opened up so much for Legette, who looked great. It has to be said, like, he's quite a boom-bust prospect, but he went out, caught 6 for 10 targets yesterday for 66 yards and a touchdown, tied with Tommy Tremble, the tight end, for the most snaps among all offensive players. Dalton is just such a more reliable quarterback right now, and it's going to be helped by the fact that the Panthers defense is atrocious. They are 7th worst in EPA per play this season. They just lost Shaq Thompson to a torn Achilles after already losing Derek Brown. 2 of their best defensive players now down and out for the season. The offense, though, since Andy Dalton took over, they rank 7th in EPA per play. So there's hope that this team, even though they're going to be put in pass-heavy scripts, we could see Andy Dalton just passing the ball as we try to chase down a deficit week after week. And that could really benefit Xavier Legette. 8 minutes in, I know you're enjoying it. If you made it this far into the video, hit the subscribe button. We do Dynasty, Best Ball, Redraft, DFS. We get you covered all year round to win. Hit the subscribe button and help me help you. Jordan Whittington, 3% rosters. Through 3 quarters yesterday, he had 6 catches. All of the Rams players had 10 catches. He led the team in routes, and I think we can expect this to be quite sticky because according to Jay Glazer of Fox, Cooper Kupp will miss at least the next 2 weeks, while Puka Nacua will miss at least the next month. Like, this team, they need someone to stand up and be counted on. Also, we heard from the Rams and Jordan Rodriguez that the team viewed Jordan Whittington as the direct backup to either Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp in case something happened. Well, when something's happened to both of them, they need someone to stand up, and the way that Jordan Whittington plays, the way that he's aggressive at the catch point, it really feels like he can do some of the things that Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua do. Tyler Johnson saw a reduction in his work. Whittington can grow into his role. He'll get those scheme touches, and he's going to have an uphill battle to make sure that he can be the wide receiver 3 or the wide receiver 2 when Kupp or Nacua return. But he's got so much upside that I would absolutely be trying to grab him off waivers this week. We're getting into the deeper league players, but Jalen Polk is absolutely one of those guys that you should be chasing. The only wide receiver on the Patriots with more than 43 snaps yesterday. Polk had 52, 7 targets led the team. It seems like he's finally elevated himself to be the wide receiver 1 on this offense, which badly needs a wide receiver to stand up. Yes, Kendrick Bourne could return soon. He's coming off an ACL injury, though. He's no spring chicken. And it feels like the Drake May days, they're coming sooner rather than later. If it was me, I would be starting him this week against this very weak Miami defense without Tua. But it seems like we might sit him a little bit longer. Either way, Jalen Polk, incredible college prospect, somebody who should be rostered in every league. Trey Tucker, again, we are deep in the deep leagues. He was 2nd in snaps behind only Jacoby Myers yesterday, 2nd in targets, also had a designed carry. It's a bit of a dart throw because we don't know what's going to happen with Davante Adams. But if Davante Adams' hamstrings keep playing up, if there's more trade speculation, Trey Tucker seems to have proven that he can play for this Raiders team, who they're pretty plucky. We don't know what we're going to get week to week from them, but we know they are going to be trailing plenty this season. We know that Gardner Minshew's accuracy has actually been slightly better than we might have expected. And I'm okay taking Trey Tucker and just putting him on the bench and just seeing what happens over the next week or two. Justin Watson, 0% rostered on Yahoo. So why am I talking about him? Well, Patrick Mahomes, he ended Rashee Rice's season after he threw that interception and then his head collided with Rashee Rice's knee. It's an incredibly unfortunate situation, but somebody's going to have to stand up. The Chiefs, they do not have huge amounts of cap room currently. Yes, they could go out and make a trade for somebody, but it's more than likely that we're going to see someone like Justin Watson, who knows the scheme, who's been there for a little while, have to play an elevated role. After Rice went out yesterday, both Xavier Worthy and Justin Watson played at least 11 of 16 snaps in 12 personnel. Watson was the guy in preseason that when Hollywood Brown went down injured, they immediately pushed him to start taking more snaps. Yes, we've got Juju Smith-Schuster. He's potentially going to be the slot receiver, but they haven't been leaning on him very much. He looks absolutely washed last year, so I'm not sure how much you want to trust that one. Meanwhile, Justin Watson, there is some upside there. There is some projection, and this is definitely one of those deeper league choices, but I'd be fine taking Justin Watson for a flyer, seeing how it works out over the next week or two. And if you have to put him back on waivers, you have to put him back on waivers. And lastly, make sure you are checking that either Nick Chubb or TJ Hawkinson aren't sitting out there on waivers. Both players are reportedly going to be training again this week. It doesn't mean that they're going to be playing this week. They could be training for up to 3 weeks before their teams have to activate them. I would expect both these players have some ramp-up period, and even if they're playing in 2 or 3 weeks' time, it might take another few weeks for them to really return to their old selves, if they do at all. But we know the upside in these two players is massive, so make sure that nobody else is getting a bargain on them. Those are your week 5 waivers. Let me know in the comments who you want to get off waivers the most this week, who I've missed, who you think I should be paying attention to this week. Hit the subscribe button. We got more Dynasty, Redraft, DFS content. It's all coming your way this week to make sure you have a great week 5.